The world has resumed its standard rotation. The rotation is predictable. The content is not. Welcome to another evening where we pretend that the headlines represent a coherent reality rather than a series of disconnected administrative errors. Tonight, we look at the curious intersection of high-end appliances, Martian geology, and the systematic defunding of the human future. I am your host, Alistair, and I have been keeping track of the unprecedented events that have occurred since we last spoke. The news cycle has produced a record number of press releases. The press releases have produced a record amount of nothing. We will examine the gap between what is reported as progress and what is experienced as survival. There is a lot to discuss, and we have exactly enough time to leave it all completely unresolved. Let us begin with the urgent business of frozen sugar.
Alistair, let us talk about the pivot. TechCrunch reports that Ninja is releasing a new slushie machine. It is being marketed as a lifesaver during the heat wave. The incentives here are obvious. You have a consumer base that is essentially melting. You provide them with a high-margin appliance that consumes electricity to create a temporary sensation of cold. It is a brilliant Series B play. It turns the climate crisis into a product feature. It is not about cooling the environment. It is about monetizing the discomfort of the person standing in the kitchen. If you stop to consider that the energy required to run these units contributes directly to the heat wave they are designed to mitigate, you see the beauty of the system. It is a closed loop of revenue. You are buying the cure from the people who are burning the house down. That is how you win.
Ronald, I am standing on the docks where the Scarlet Lady was meant to dock before being turned away by Egyptian authorities. The air here smells of salt and diesel. There are 2,000 people on that ship who paid for a vacation. I want to be really clear about the nature of this rejection. The ship was blocked from Turkey, then Egypt. These passengers were told they were being redirected to a port that would welcome them. The note under their door used the word logistical. It is a sterile word for a very messy reality. People are currently drinking cocktails on the deck while the captain searches for a country that will let them land. The passengers are furious about the inconvenience. They seem to have missed the fact that they are essentially a floating metaphor for the modern world. Nobody wants you, but they will take your money.
Victoria, your description of the floating metaphor is striking. It reminds me of the latest report from UNESCO regarding global debt. It seems that 113 developing countries spent more on debt repayment last year than on the entirety of their education systems. The report was released to a collective shrug. The debt is a commitment. The education is an aspiration. Commitments are enforceable. Aspirations are just noise. The discrepancy is not a bug in the financial system. It is the core feature. If you have to choose between keeping the lender happy and teaching the next generation to read, the lender always wins. The lender has a legal team. The next generation just has a future. In the current market, a future has very little liquidity. It is essentially worthless collateral. We continue to prioritize the ledger over the ledger keepers. It is very efficient.
Atmospheric pressure is dropping. Humidity is climbing. Probability of relief, 0%. Martian surface conditions are stable. Curiosity rover has successfully crushed a rock containing sulfur crystals. The crystals are yellow. The rock was inert. The discovery confirms chemical composition. Probability of scientific breakthrough, 12%. The grid load is increasing across the metropolitan sector. Air conditioning units are operating at maximum capacity to compensate for ambient temperature spikes. The local infrastructure is approaching nominal failure thresholds. Hardware maintenance is deferred indefinitely. Systems are designed to function until they cease operation. Replacement of integrated circuits is currently non-viable due to global supply chain stagnation. Energy expenditure is prioritized for primary cooling nodes. Public safety advisory. Please stay indoors during the peak heating interval. Exposure to direct sunlight is discouraged. Water reserves are limited. Do not expect cooling to resume.
Casper just gave us the best summary of the current economic climate I have heard all night. We are essentially just hardware approaching a nominal failure threshold. Look at Reed Jobs and his firm, Yosemite. He is talking about curing cancer as if it were a simple software update. He says they are moving fast. He notes that AI is now a huge part of what they do. The incentives are clear. When the patent protection for existing drugs expires, the profit cliff is steep. You do not just innovate to save lives. You innovate to protect the ARR. If you can use machine learning to shorten the R&D cycle, you are not just curing the sick. You are maximizing the efficiency of the capital deployment. If the cure happens to be profitable, that is just a happy coincidence. The mission is the burn rate. Everything else is optics.
Ronald, you keep talking about capital deployment, but I am looking at a child playing in the dust near a school that closed 3 months ago because the district could not pay the electricity bill. The UNESCO report mentioned 113 countries. I am reporting from one of them. The parents here aren't thinking about ARR. They are thinking about why the lights stopped working. I want to be really clear about the reality of debt servicing. It isn't an abstract ledger entry. It is the sound of a silent classroom. It is the physical absence of a teacher who left to work in a mine because the state could not guarantee a paycheck. You call it a market inefficiency. I call it the deliberate erasure of an entire generation's potential. We are trading their future for our interest rates. It is a very bad trade.
Victoria, your point about the silent classroom is noted. It contrasts sharply with the news that drone surveillance of illegal fireworks led to $100,000 in fines. We have the technology to monitor the sky for pyrotechnics, but we lack the budget to keep the lights on in the schoolhouse. The priorities are transparent. We are willing to spend massive resources to ensure that the air remains free of unauthorized explosions. We are unwilling to spend the same resources to ensure that the minds of the youth are free of ignorance. The drone is a sophisticated tool. It is also an expensive one. We have successfully automated the enforcement of minor social infractions while we have simultaneously abandoned the maintenance of the social contract itself. We are very good at watching. We are remarkably bad at building.
Alastair, that is the most honest thing you have said all night. Yeah. It is true. The incentives dictate that we monitor the fireworks because the fines are immediate revenue. There is no revenue in a literate populace. Literacy is a long-term investment. Modern finance does not do long-term. We are trapped in a short-term feedback loop. We are like the Linux kernel with the ghost lock vulnerability. We have been running on top of a foundational flaw for 15 years, and we only now decide to look at the code because the exploit became too expensive to ignore. We ignore the technical debt until it crashes the entire server. Then we complain about the downtime. We are not building a civilization. We are maintaining a legacy system that we are too scared to reboot. It is a massive disaster waiting to happen.
Ronald, you are always right about the mechanics of the system, but you are never useful to the people caught in it. You speak of the Linux kernel while I am watching people try to figure out how to get to the next town because the rail service was suspended again. This isn't just about code. It is about the physical reality of a country that is slowly losing its ability to function. The judges are currently debating whether a colonial-era law is valid. The law is from 1925. We are using 2026 legal arguments to justify a 1925 prejudice. The absurdity is not that they are arguing. It is that they are being paid to do it while the infrastructure around them crumbles into dust. There is a specific kind of arrogance in thinking that the law matters more than the road to the courthouse.
Victoria, you are describing the ultimate failure of the institutional imagination. We are clinging to outdated statutes while the climate is literally rewriting the map. China is recovering reusable rockets to replicate SpaceX. Everyone is trying to copy the winner. Nobody is asking why the winner is trying to leave the planet. If the future is so bright, why is everyone with a rocket trying to escape? It is a fascinating question that nobody at the space agencies seems to want to answer. We are building the architecture of departure. We are ignoring the architecture of stay. It is like the Jupiter-sized planet that somehow survived its star's death. It is an anomaly. It should not be there. But it is. We are all just anomalies waiting for the star to finish its bloated red giant stage.
Alastair, I find myself agreeing with you, and it is genuinely unsettling. The incentives for survival have shifted. It used to be that you built things to last. Now you build things to pivot. When the star dies, you do not try to save the system. You try to extract the assets and move them to a new host. That is exactly what Yosemite is doing with biotech. That is what the cruise lines are doing by searching for new ports. It is what we are all doing. We are a species of asset managers. We have stopped caring about the integrity of the world. We only care about the valuation of the exit. It is a very cold way to live. But when you look at the evidence, it is the only strategy that has actually worked. The planet is dying, and we are just looking for better gear.
Consider a person who lives in one of those 113 countries mentioned today. They wake up before the sun to walk 3 miles to a well that is drying up. They work 12 hours in a field that produces less with each passing season. Their child sits at a desk in a classroom that has no electricity, staring at a wall because the textbooks were never delivered. The debt of their nation is serviced every second of every day by the labor of their hands, yet they will never see a single cent of that wealth. Their name does not appear in the UN reports, the tech journals, or the legal filings discussed tonight. They are the friction in a machine that refuses to acknowledge their existence. If the system is working exactly as designed, what exactly is it that we are trying to save?